Okay, hello Bio 2. We're going to finish chapter 26 today about the Cnidarians, and we're going to do that by looking at what are the three groups of Cnidarians. So maybe alluded to what some of the members are, but now we're going to get into the details about each one. So our first, they're just a general overview. There are going to be jellyfishes, hydras and their relatives, sea anemones, and corals. So we're going to have three different classes. So remember, this is the phylum is going to be known as Cnidaria, and then the classes are going to be as follows. So the first one are the jellyfishes, which we've probably mentioned the most, and this is the class Scyphozoa, and they contain the jellyfishes, and they live their lives primarily as medusas. So they're going to be more free-floating. They don't really have a stage. Well, they do have a stage, but it's not very dominant, the polyp stage, where they're not moving. So the polyp form of a jellyfish is just restricted to a small larval stage, and no elaborate colonies ever form. So the rest of them that we're going to look at, the two other classes, they will form some colonies, and jellyfishes are going to reproduce only sexually. So we all know what jellyfishes look like, and we're going to take a look at some of those more in depth. So moving on to our next group, they are going to be hydras and their relatives. So this class is known as Hydrazoa, and it contains what are known as hydras and related animals. And the polyps of most of the hydrazoans will grow in branching colonies that can extend more than a meter, and within the colony the polyps are specialized to perform different functions. So this is pretty interesting. There can be a group of entirely different organisms, so they're each their own organism, but each one will carry out a different function in order to better help that colony survive. So that's pretty cool that they almost, again, we consider them to be not very specialized, but they've developed to the point to where they can all carry out different functions in order for the greater good of the colony. And the most common freshwater hydrozoans are going to be what are called hydras, and they differ from other Cnidarians in this class because they lack a medusa stage. Instead, they live only as solitary polyps, so they're never going to have that jellyfish-looking stage. They're only going to be, again, attached to a single point, and they can reproduce in two ways, asexually by budding or sexually by producing eggs and sperm in the body wall. So here is what a hydra looks like. Again, it just looks like that picture of that polyp that we drew in class. Not too much different there. So that is what a hydra looks like. Our next one is sea anemones and corals, and this is going to be the class Anthozoa, and this again contains the sea anemones and corals, and these are animals that have only the polyp stage in their life cycle. So they have no medusa stage either, and they all have a central body surrounded by tentacles, which again is kind of going along with what almost all the other ones in the Cnidaria phylum have as well. So many species are colonial, are composed of many individual polyps, so a lot of them grow together, and sea anemones are solitary polyps that live at all depths of the ocean, so you can really find sea anemones all over the place. And most corals are colonial, and their polyps will grow together in large numbers, again forming coral reefs, which we will take a look at in class. And new polyps are produced by budding, and as the colonies grow, they secrete an underlying skeleton of calcium carbonate or limestone, so they just basically make a foundation for themselves as they go. And so what do corals serve from kind of an ecology standpoint? Again, how they affect the rest of the living world around them. So worldwide distribution of corals is determined by a few variables. So their temperature, water depth, and light intensity will kind of help us determine how many corals we have, kind of how they will grow and things like that. And the corals that build coral reefs require high levels of light, so these corals will rely on algae that capture solar energy, recycle nutrients, and help corals lay down their calcium carbonate skeletons. So corals would not be able to survive without some algae that was living with them and helping them carry out photosynthesis and basically setting down the foundation for them to grow. So moving on, these symbionts, these algae that help out the corals, they provide as much as 60% of the energy that corals need, and this allows coral reefs to live in water that carry few nutrients. So these coral reefs can live in areas, again, and provide homes for countless number of other animals in areas that are very low in nutrients because of the symbiotic relationship that they have with the algae. And however, many coral reefs will suffer from human activity, so silt and sediments from logging, farming, mining, and construction can smother the corals and cause them to die. Chemical fertilizers, insecticides, and industrial pollutants will poison the corals, and overfishing will upset the ecological balance. So again, it might take out a fish that's a big food source for a lot of smaller fish, or it might take out a smaller fish that serves as a big food source for a lot of other bigger fish. Or let's say we take out all the big fish and then we have too many little fish growing, and it just upsets the balance of everything. And there are stresses that make coral reefs susceptible to other threats as well. So that is it for chapter 26. Let me know if you have